Okay, so by now you've probably noticed that I rarely have any projects where, or any long form projects where I'm asking you to code along with me. And there's a reason for that. I just don't want you to get stuck in tutorial hell. And just in case you're not familiar with what tutorial hell is, it's basically when someone is first learning how to code and then they go on, let's say, YouTube, for example, find a tutorial and then basically try to code along with someone who is creating a project. And then they try to learn that way. And if you've done that before, you'll notice that while you're working on these projects, you feel like you're learning a lot. But once it comes time for you to create your own project or create something from scratch, you feel very confused. So you go back to trying different tutorials, hoping that the more things that you learn, the better programmer you'll become. But then once the tutorial is done and you have to create your own thing from scratch, you realize that it's difficult for you. And then you get stuck in that loop where you're constantly going from tutorial to tutorial to tutorial. So it's kind of like trying to learn how to ride a bike, but keeping your training wheels on. While your training wheels are on, you can probably ride the bike as fast as possible and feel like you're actually making progress. But once you take off the training wheels, you find that you fall flat on your face. And there's a scientific reason why this happens. Okay. So whether you're learning how to ride a bike with training wheels or you're trying to learn a different language like Japanese, Spanish, German, where you learn a lot of different words and you feel like, okay, I know this language very well. When someone is talking to me in this language, I can understand it. But when it comes time for you to actually speak it or to hold a conversation, it's almost like you forgot everything. And the same with swimming. Sometimes you might feel confident swimming in the shallow end or with a life jacket on, but once they throw you into the deep end, everything that you learned seemed to have disappeared. And speaking of swimming, I actually have a personal story with this where I was learning how to swim. Yes, some black people do swim. I was learning how to swim, and for a very long time, I was trying my techniques and everything in the shallow end. Basically, the water is only up to my chest. I can swim pretty fast. So I thought, well, I already know the techniques and everything. So if I go into the deep end, I can do the exact same thing and be able to go from one end to the other of the pool. But guess what? I jumped in the deep end, realized that, oh shit, my feet doesn't touch the bottom. And then in that moment, I just panicked, forgot everything that I learned. And I was just focused on trying to hold my breath until I get to the other side of the pool or to the shallow end of the pool. So this is very similar to what you experience in tutorial hell, where you feel like you're actually learning something from these tutorials, but when it comes time to create your own project, it's almost like you turn into an idiot. And let me tell you why that happens. It's because we often overlook some of the most critical parts of learning. Most people might think learning to program is just knowing the different commands or how to write code, but it also involves problem solving and critical thinking. Just like how riding a bike involves more than just being able to pedal or turn the bike, it also involves balancing, or being able to learn a language involves more than just understanding what is being spoken or understanding the different words. It also involves being able to quickly link words together in a meaningful way so that you can communicate what you want to say to another person. And similarly, when you're trying to swim, it's not just about knowing the different techniques to move in the water. You also need to know breath control and how to stay calm when you get into the water. So hopefully by now you understand that coding is more than just knowing different commands. And the reason why you get stuck in tutorial hell is because you're focused on just learning the language or the syntax, but not actually the problem solving aspect. You're probably wondering, so if I don't do tutorials, how am I supposed to learn? So, in my opinion, the best approach is to learn the fundamental concepts, whether it's variables or numbers or if statements or data structures. You just learn the fundamental concepts. And for each concept that you learn, each new concept, you do a quick programming challenge that will test your knowledge or your skill. So if you notice, for every module or every concept that is being taught, I also have a quick challenge so that you can also develop your problem solving skills or your critical thinking skills by creating your own programs. But I encourage you to take this one step further, okay? I encourage you to also try to come up with your own project ideas or programming challenge ideas. And in this day and age, you don't even need to come up with the ideas yourself. You can always use a platform like ChatGPT or any other AI large language model and ask it to generate some ideas for you. So, for example, if I go to ChatGPT, I can use this exact prompt. I am a beginner Python programmer. So far, I've only learned variables, numbers, strings, and if statements. Suggest a simple programming project I can do based on what I've learned so far. So when I enter something like this, I may get something like, okay, well, based on your knowledge, you should try to build a simple calculator that has these X, Y, or Z features. And even if you don't really care to build a calculator, you can always tell the large language model or ChatGPT to generate a new idea for you. And you can keep generating new project ideas until you find something that really moves you, something that you're excited to create. So to recap, in order to escape tutorial hell, try to avoid those long form code along with me kind of tutorials and focus on learning the fundamental concepts for whatever language you're trying to learn. And for each new concept that you learn, try building a simple project around it. That way you improve your understanding, your problem solving skills, and your critical thinking abilities. So that when the time comes for you to create a big project, you're not going to feel lost anymore.